Hi, I'm Nick Koval, and you, well, either you originally searched for cat videos, and after watching several hours of mind-numbing videos from Miley Cyrus twerking to pandas sneezing on each other, you felt the need to regain some of your IQ points and ended up here. Thank you. Maybe you're looking for some newcoming YouTubers to trash in the comments section. Don't worry, I turned the comments off. Possibly, and frankly, the most likely, you were failing at your history class, so you decided to gain some extra brownie points with your mom before she takes your phone away. Nice. But I hope you are all here because you have a real and true interest in maybe not history all around like myself, but why we are here and the state of which the world rests in, and why we are not still walking around with sticks and stones and throwing bones at each other. I hope you were here about to watch me wave my arms around like a madman, not just to satisfy your curiosity, but I hope that with each episode's end, you are left craving more. More knowledge as to why this world faces the issues it faces today. And through that knowledge you crave, I hope to see you making connections from the past to the present, so that you can answer more questions about today's society on your own. So let us begin. Begin with the farthest back in time history that of archaeology and scripture can tell us about our forefathers, the time of hunting and gathering. The term hunters and gatherers is one of the most common terms people know when it comes to world history. That's fine, but the term itself is simply one of the most broad phrases for the wide variety of people living under that time. And until around 11 to 12,000 years ago, we see the entire human population living all over the globe under the loose terms of hunter-gatherer. And I use the word surviving in a comparative way to that of civilization. You know, the place that has law, order, stability, culture, and government to ensure all those traits are prevalent to the people. In direct contrast to the groups of savages hunting and picking berries all day, right? Wrong. Or actually right. It just depends on how you look at all the facts presented to you. But before we go into the debatable part of this lesson today, let's state the facts. By the time Homo sapiens populated far outside of Africa, people lived in small groups or tribes constantly on the move, with several main traits and purposes embedded within each tribe. First, and definitely the most important of the group's priorities, was to find a suitable source of food, sustainable for a profitable amount of time. Math load, right? The food that was provided to the tribes varied vastly to the climate, sea level, and just the land itself of which these tribes inhabited. Okay, so say a tribe lived near the coastline of Japan. Then the food types that the tribe would consume should heavily be seafood, correct? As to a tribe living deep in the Congo jungle, who would be more occupied with collecting fruits, veggies, and tasty animals such as buffalo, mongoose, lion, antelope, and several different types of delicious hogs. But as the term hunter-gatherer goes, we don't actually see humans, hunting wild game until the middle and upper years of the Paleolithic Age, or Stone Age. Most humans and derivatives of the Homo sapien would watch and wait for their target prey to be killed by, say, another animal or sickness, and then harvest what meat they could from the animal. Now, as you can tell, this type of hunting would consume an incredible amount of time, energy, and simply would just not be profitable for the scavengers. And that is the most accurate term really for the human race at this lower Stone Age, scavengers. So aside from what meat a group could obtain, they would mostly focus on collecting local shrubberies, finding that method much more profitable then, But another really interesting way humans at the time caught their animal prey was by a method rarely used today and is now called persistence hunting. This method, a group of real hunters will stalk an animal of their choosing for hours on end, making their presence known to the animal so it would wear itself out until it could no longer keep up with the run due to dehydration and simply running at top speed all day. And once the prey had given up, all the meat and bone was basically the hunter's. Now, we know this process existed thousands of years ago because of the very, very few nomadic hunting tribes living outside of the modern world today, such as the Hadza, who dwelt in Tanzania at a small population of around 1,000 people, willing to show the outside world their way of life. Now, collecting local fruits, nuts, and veggies is pretty boring to talk about, but what about how a large group of people inhabiting a wide expanse of arid land keeps its food supply on stock on a daily basis? This question can be answered by the endurance running hypothesis. Now, this is the idea that certain human characteristics can be explained as adaptations to a long time of humans constantly using their body for running, and we suppose quite heavily that during this period, many humans were conditioned their entire lives to running long distances for collecting food in such a way. So, now, back to that group out in the arid landscape. A huge portion of that population would condition themselves to traverse a wide expanse of that landscape in search for what local foods the land would provide, and then carry what the group collected back all the way to their main base, if you will, for the rest of the population to consume. Now, all of that in one day's work just for the surviving scavengers to wake up the next morning to do the exact same thing, but in a different direction, at the same general distance or on a hard day of work, it is easy to speculate that these scavengers would travel days at a time just to ensure the bare minimum of survival for their people. So, collecting food all around seems like a simple task, yeah? But organizing out sections of a large group of people to collect what food they came across for the rest of their population is actually an incredible challenge, especially with the complete lack of any form of long-distance communication and transportation. So, to overcome this challenge, tribes began to specialize themselves, now more than ever than previously thought by historians, to concentrate their focus on one set of game that they had not hunted as much before as their change. Thus, their food selection would technically be smaller, but in most cases more abundant in quantity itself. But with that specialization now within most tribes in the middle and upper times of the Stone Age, we see a rise in the production of rudimentary tools to further the tribe's output of food. Alright, now let's go back to that tribe over on the coast of Japan. To further benefit the output of their seafood, these guys would have to make harpoon spears and hooks out of old bone and wood, along with nets to catch the fish without actually stabbing their prey, whatever they want. And with the guys over in the Congo, they would have to make spears and bow and arrows to kill the prey more easily. Now, who would specifically think of this idea for a group and then get the whole group to follow it? Would it be an entire group sitting around a campfire at night spitballing ideas? Maybe one guy had an epiphany after chasing down a mongoose. Only as of a recent time in history, we know who invented the first train, the first modern coal mine, as it was all recorded down and left for us to easily remember. But not in this time period. So when it comes to social structure and this time, we must look to what hunter-gatherer groups remain, like the ones I said before, and how they lead themselves and where is their main source of ideas and influence. Looking at what we know and see, these groups ran themselves mostly as a council, addressing their daily problems as a team, working together all as equals, male and female. That's the really interesting thing about this part in human history. The equality practiced among both sexes is truly unseen in basically all life on Earth. In primates, the groups are dominated by a sole alpha male. As they are our closest genetic relative, the expected similarities are actually unexpected differences. And on the topic of males, scientists believe that around 25 to 30% of all adult males under this time died under violence by other humans, either it be from a warring tribe or a brawl of who had the better spear. It's a huge difference from today, as around 3% of all males today end up dying from a violent act. From observations made in the 1800s, around 90% of tribes ended up at war with neighboring tribes, and their fighting would last about 3/4 of a year until winter set in. And once the snow melted and supplies were ample all around, war would break out again over dominance for a plot of land, special resources, bad first impression, or just because it was fun to duke it out with each other. Whatever the reasons may be, this is the time as to where war is setting its unrelenting grip on humanity's timeline. From the very beginning of our own, we humans were not only fighting animals for food, but each other for power, making war a constant part of our lives. And with the growing ingenuity in humans we will study, we will also find a million ways for a new human being to die. Now, this was during a time period before dominant religions, before social classes and common culture and ideas. Humans thus had to be filled at their very core in a desire to slaughter each other, which would be one of the few primitive parts of humans that are comparative to animals in the wild, such as wolves, apes, ants, and even some reptiles who mark their territory and assault those who dare enter their territory. Just like humans do today and have done since their very creation. When Hannibal crossed over from Africa into Roman territory, it was instant war. When the Persians landed on the shores of Marathon, Athens knew to release their forces and push them back. When Hitler invaded the non-German half of Czechoslovakia, we were officially in the Second World War. So my debatable question in this video is, how different are we people now, living in our comfortable homes watching the world's problems from afar, to that of those who dwell in temporary huts fighting for survival every day? Looking at everything in superficial eyes, one would almost instantly say we are fire and they are ice in difference. Sure, we have almost everything that people did not have thousands of years ago, but take away the time and all that it adds on to human history with each passing day, take away the reason claimed for war and death, and look at the actions presented with each major historical figure, and all the people over the entirety of history, then and there will you find the answer to my question today. But, you know, taking away the why factor is quite a huge chunk to take away from history. Let's put it in perspective. A police officer is put on a murder case and has the killer in custody. The killer says he killed the other man because he was going to do the same to him, so of course the first man acted in self-defense. But the officer chose not to listen into that huge part of the case, so all he knows is the action and not the why. And clearly with the officer not taking the why into consideration, he is failing as a police officer. Such is the same for we historians. If we do not look into the why of any action one commits in history's spotlight, we are failing at remembering the whole and meaning of our history. And looking into the why factor is where you will find all the answers as to why we live in the exact way that we do. So, let us look into the actions and that wonderful why factor together. And together we will unlock everything we as a people need to know to improve ourselves and to truly become the fire to the ice of the hunters and gatherers. Alright guys, thank you very much for finding this video and even watching it. To help us even further, it would be just fantastic if you would subscribe, like, and comment. You know, a productive comment, not like, you're stupid or I don't like your beard. Nothing like that. Something like, hey, maybe talk a little bit slower, or anything else that my team could find productive. That'd be just fantastic, and I hope to see you next episode. Bye-bye now.